Hello, you guys. Welcome to KGB Bible Stories. Today we have our continuation in the book The Law of Life by E.J. Wagner. And today we are in the 9th commandment, which says, "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." We're on page 119. And remember,
right now we're dealing with the commandment. We're not just dealing with the letter. We're also dealing with the spiritual aspect, because it says the law is broad and there's many ways you can break the commandment. That's why really with us, man itself and women cannot keep the law of God. Christ only kept the law. He wants to impart his victory that he did in keeping the law to us and everything. But we want to do honor to the law. We want to magnify the law and make it honorable, because it is the character of God.
amen. Let us begin with a word of prayer.
Father in heaven, may you bless us as we're going to go over the 9th commandment, which is, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." May you bless it. May we see the spiritual as long as the letter of this. And may we ultimately see Christ in this law. In your Son Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Let's go to page 119. Exodus 20:16, repeating again the 9th commandment. "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." And that false witness is lies. If we were to attempt to enumerate and discuss all the ways in which this commandment may be and is broken, a whole volume would not be sufficient. But that is not necessary. We do not need to know all the ways of error in order to keep in the right way. The man who is in search of treasure does not care to know the roads that lead away from it. All that he desires to know, the one road that will bring him to the right place. There are many wrong ways, but only one right way. If we spend our time exploring all the devious paths of error, we shall never know the way of truth. Yet in the present condition of things, it is really necessary to call attention sharply to some particular sins while presenting the commandment of truth. Because many people are so fixed in a wrong course that scarcely anything less than an earthquake will move them. They will listen to the commandment, which forbids what they are doing, and will think that it condemns their actions. One must put his finger upon the particular act and say, that is sin. Therefore they will have any sense of wrongdoing. Thousands of people read the 4th commandment every week and honestly think that they are obeying it and keeping Sunday. And many people take the name of the Lord in vain in various ways without any consciousness of so doing.
Okay.
Polite lying.
Now, when it says the man who is in search of treasure does not care to know the roads that leads from its way. All he desires to know is the one road that will bring him into the right place. It says there are many wrong ways, but there's only one right way. And if we spend our time exploring all the deceivious paths of error, we shall never know the way of truth. Now it says there's many ways to break this commandment. There's one right way. What's that right way that we need to find? That's Jesus right now. Because remember, we cannot keep the full gravity of the law, because there's so many ways to break it. And all man we're carnal in nature. So right now there's only one right path, and that's who?
Jesus.
And that's Jesus and everything. If we try to keep the law unto ourselves, we will fail. It only takes Jesus. You must surrender to Jesus and let Jesus do his will and his good pleasure as pertaining to his law in us.
Polite lying. Custom lies at the foundation of a large amount of violation of the commandments. The 9th no less than the others. What everybody does is supposed to be justifiable. The custom of the people is responsible for a great deal of what is custom as polite lying. God forbid that any of us should be any less courteous than we are. We certainly do not need to cultivate rudeness, but there is a false standard of politeness. It is the one too often followed. The sort of politeness that depends upon falsehood is evidently not true courtesy, for 1 John 2:21 says,
no lie is of the truth.
and truth cannot come from lying. The same scriptures that command us not to bear false witness also tells us to 1 Peter 3:8,
be pitiful and be courteous.
be pitiful, be courteous. Therefore we know that the most perfect courtesy is compatible with perfect truthfulness and cannot exist without it. Laziness and cowardice are at the bottom of the great deal of the polite line. It comes so easy for even Christians themselves to follow the universal custom of saying things to please people and lie to make promises that they do not expect ever to perform. The customer wishes the goods delivered immediately, and the professed Christian tradesman will promise to send them, well knowing that he cannot do so for hours, yet he will not think that he has lied. He did not do so deliberately, but it was so easy to please the customer by making the promise and then to trust to some excuse to pacify him if he afterwards complained. The accuser of the brethren, Satan, who is a liar and the father of it, is also called, Revelation 12:10, the accuser of the brethren. And of course, you guys, when we read this book, he's only trying to focus on the main portions of the Bible verse. So if you guys want to do, put pause and then read the whole verse.
I don't like saying one of the things about polite lying. And another thing we got to deal with polite lying is that there's many ways to break it and everything. And one of the things right now you see that's common in society today is they say it's the term a little white lie will what? Will never hurt. And what does it mean by a little white lie? Is what they want to do is they don't want to hurt somebody. For example, like they do have compassion on somebody, but they want to say a little white lie, which means they'll bend the truth a little bit, or won't tell the full truth, so they will not hurt that one person and everything. And so basically, what they're doing is they're essentially lying, not telling the truth, so they will not hurt another person and everything. And so that's like, for example, if somebody asks you a question and everything, and somebody asks you a question, and typically when they answer that question, you're supposed to give them a truthful answer, shouldn't you? Well, what do they want to do?
They want to keep their business and assure them in lies.
Yes. So basically, somebody gives an answer. They're expecting to get an answer, and obviously, and sometimes that person is not going to give an answer. They may have an answer that might actually offend them. So what do? They'll sit there and lie. They give that little white lie so they will not offend somebody and everything. And that'll still be breaking the commandments of God and everything, because you're not being truthful. So like, for example, when Jesus says now, even with this commandment, when it says do not bear false witness against your neighbor, the person that may ask a question could do what? Break this commandment, because they're not careful what they get. If you ask a question, expect an honest. You might have to expect an honest answer back, or else you can make your brother sin on this commandment by giving them an answer, and then in your mind you're expecting a certain answer. And this happens a lot in this world nowadays, and because people will get offended because they ask a question, they don't like the response. But sometimes if the response is truthful, how can you get mad for the truth?
Exactly.
And everything. So like I said, this whole thing of a little white lie and everything, you must be truthful in all aspects of it. And that'll be very possible. You're lying to your neighbor, and even though the lie may hurt them a little bit, they should be not easily offended on that one and not. Or once again, don't ask the question.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was going to say after your comment, but you already kind of covered it pretty much. But yeah, like another thing is like, okay, people can say little white lies, like Ron explained already. But another situation will be that people do not want the truth. They want to remain deceived.
Mm-hmm.
That's also bearing false witness, because we are to be loving the truth. Even if it hurts us, we want the truth to change us.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't want to hear the truth, don't want to hear their mistakes, don't want to hear what they did wrong. They just don't want to. So that's not good either.
Yes, we're gonna deal with that section when it gets to the portion of tale bearing in here, because many people make a mistake to think that telling you're tale bearing because you're telling somebody that of a sin that's there. That's not you're not supposed. How can you be? How would I say? How can you blow the trumpet and warn them if you cannot tell of their sins and everything? So basically, what God had to warn Israel of their sins many times. Was God tale-bearing by telling them their sins? The answer to that was no. If you see the train coming, you don't move somebody off the train track, they're going to get hit by the train. So when we get to that section, there's a section we're going to get today, what's called tale-bearing, which is going to be along with the wife is going to be talking about right there.
I was going to say another comment. I was thinking of Rahab. Did Rahab lie in order to protect the two spies?
Mm-hmm.
Did she lie, yes or no?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, she did. Was she a Christian? Was she a believer?
No, she was not a believer.
She was not
a believer. Yes, it was.
But she did it for the sake of the life of those two spies that went to go spy of the land of Canaan.
Correct. Yes, and you can see a lot of examples in the nation of Israel.
Right, and so the Lord blessed her because she protected them.
Yeah.
The Lord then took that as a sin, because that was to save their life. Okay, so as best as possible. I mean, I'm not saying it's okay to lie. I'm saying you're just gonna have to let the Lord lead you.
Yes, she could have sinned. It could be ultimately in a way of that would be a form of sinning, but everything. But like I said, she may not have known better at the time. Never know. Yes. Well, again, what we're reading right here is she lied to do what? To
protect the lives of those two men.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Ultimately, I say what that one is.
And what was and then they made a deal that they said, because you hit us, and then she told her, the lady told her, Rahab told them to save my family, and they come to destroy the land, the inhabitants of the land, and so they did. She told her, put a red scarlet little thingy outside on your window, and we'll know this is the house, and all the people you want to save, like your families, bring them inside the house, and nobody will die. And so there's one example that doesn't mean that it's okay. I'm just telling you an example. The other thing will be the false accusers, the false witnesses that testified against Christ. That they say, yeah, this man said this. Oh, this man said he will destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. And false witnesses and false witnesses.
Yeah, even the stoning of Stephen, there was false witnesses brought to Stephen before he was martyred and everything.
Was there?
Mm-hmm. There was always false witnesses there and everything to accuse everyone.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay, the accuser of the brethren. Satan, who is the liar and the father of it, is so called. Revelation 12:10. The accuser of the brethren. He accuses them before God day and night. Now Satan, page 121, would know better than to try to make the Lord believe that a person has committed a sin of which he is not guilty. He well knows that no act escapes the eye of the Lord, and that it is useless to try to make him believe that he has overlooked some fault. Therefore it follows that in accusing the brethren before God, Satan confines himself to the things that they have actually done. Where there is the wrong, just here. Romans 8:33. It is God that justifies. And whoever lays anything to the charge of God's neglect, bearing false witness against God as well as against the brethren, when God has forgiven men, it is a grievous sin to accuse the men of sin. Whoever brings up that fault and talks about it to men's detriment is doing the devil's work. There is no meaner way of serving the devil than to charge against the person the sin he has confessed. As soon as a person confesses his sin, God calls him righteous. To call him guilty then is to bear false witness against both men and of God. And this reminds me of the book of Zechariah, where...
Zechariah chapter 3.
Yes.
I want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Zechariah chapter 3, and he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And the Lord said unto Satan, The Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, even the Lord who hath chosen Jerusalem, rebuke thee. It is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments, and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, And take away my filthy garments from before him. And unto him, Behold, I will cause thy iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with a change of raiment. And I said, Let there set a fair mitre upon his head, so that the set of the fair mitre upon his head, and clothe him with garments, and the angel of the Lord stood by him. So we see right here is Satan right now. This is prefiguring everything. It's Joshua the high priest. It prefigures a lot of stuff that's going to happen and everything. Where Satan is going to try to accuse everyone in the world and everything. He's going to try to bring up their sins. So what does it do? He's saying God said, "It is not a brand that is plucked out of the fire and everything." These are the ones that are going to be saved, that are plucked out of fire. What is Satan trying to do? Also,
that fire is a purification.
They've been purified. They've been forgiven of their sins and everything. And Satan is trying to what? Did they not sin once before and everything? Satan is trying to bring up their past sins, but God rebukes him and says, "This is a brand that's been plucked out of the fire," which means, so Satan right here is doing what?
He's being the accuser of the brethren.
Yeah, he's breaking the 9th commandment and everything right here.
Bearing false witness against man and against God.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example of what the gentleman over here is talking about.
And we also see that in the book of Jude, chapter 1, when Jesus resurrects Moses.
Correct.
And Satan was saying, no, he doesn't deserve to enter into the heavenly Canaan.
Yeah, he contested with the body of Moses and everything. Because what did Moses do?
He smote the rock twice.
Yes, he did break the sin. That's why he wasn't able to enter into the what?
The earthly Canaan.
The earthly Canaan at the time period, because he did sin in the sight of Israel and for God and everything. And Satan tried to bring that up. But where's Moses right now?
In heaven.
In heaven and everything. So it means he was a brand plucked out of the fire too.
Likewise.
It means you can.
What did Jesus tell him? Mm-hmm. The Lord rebuked thee.
The Lord rebuked thee. So example, if God forgives someone of their sins, those sins we're not supposed to bring up and everything. Just start, oh, you did this one. Or like, for example, if they forgive you, you're not supposed to bring up their past sins. Like, oh, you did this once before and everything. So like that's one of the things you don't want to do, is bring up their past sins if God forgives them of their sins and everything. You know, that'll be like, that's basically breaking the commandment and everything. You know.
And another thing about bearing false witness, which I think it has in connection, not exactly, but telling situations to other people. You know what I mean? Ronnie, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We're not supposed to be telling everyone our problems that we have with somebody else. We're just supposed to let them be. Mm-hmm. Let's continue reading. Losing confidence. We're on page 121. How many there are who cruelly suspect a person and always treat him as untrustworthy because of some sin or sins in the past. It matters not that he has confessed his fault. He is still held under suspicion. Some will say, we know that he has fallen once, and he may again. Yes, and so may the critic. Just as though no man in this world is guilty except the one whose sin has become public property. The fact that a man has fallen into any kind of sin is no evidence whatever in itself that he will do the same thing again. On the contrary, he has voluntarily He has volunteered